You sit down to do your post-game show or any of these live streams that we do, but particularly the post-game shows, because the post-game shows are the most lively, I guess would be one word for it. The most emotional, I guess, intense. Everybody's fired up after games, and you sit down to do the post-game show, and there's this little button that's go live, which you push that button, and that means it's it. And it's a before and after moment, where you say, okay, once I push this go live button, like that's it. All we're going to do for the next hour or 2 hours or however long it is talk about Pitt losing at West Virginia. And any of these post-game shows, it's like when I push that button to go live, all we're going to do for the next hour or 2 hours or whatever it may be is talk about that game. And sometimes it's like, well, that'll be fun. We'll have some fun things to talk about. And sometimes it's like, wow, that's going to be a real crap show, as they say in the PG, in the TV, the edits that they make of movies for airplanes. I don't know if any of that even happens anymore. But you know that once you push that go live button, it's time. And it's time to talk about Pitt football. After the Panthers lost at West Virginia in overtime, no point really in Pitt even taking the field in overtime. And let's be honest, I got to think once the game went to overtime, once West Virginia scored that final touchdown with 11 seconds to go, the way they drove down the field on that final drive, there was no point in even lining up for overtime. They weren't going to stop West Virginia, and they weren't going to score on West Virginia. Oh, look at me. I'm getting ahead of myself. I always say I should take a few minutes to let people roll in for the post-game show and get tuned in before we dive into it. But let's be honest. By the end of that game, West Virginia was kicking Pitt's butt up and down the field. And I don't want to hear about penalties or one of their linemen jumped or anything like that. I don't want to hear about any of that. Pitt was getting pushed around up and down the field on both sides of the ball by the end of that game. West Virginia's final scoring drive in regulation, their final touchdown drive before overtime, they went 13 plays, 87 yards, 2 minutes and 36 seconds. And before that, they had a field goal drive where they went 12 plays, 72 yards in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So you're talking about 25 plays, 159 yards in less than 7 minutes. They were pushing Pitt around in a way that we haven't seen Pitt get pushed around very often. And there's a lot of things you can say about Pitt. There's a lot of things you can say about how they play or how they prepare or this or that. And, and believe me, we're going to say them all tonight and probably more. I think we can all come up with creative ways to talk about how much Pitt sucked in this game. But they got pushed. They don't typically get pushed around like they got pushed around by West Virginia in tonight's Backyard Brawl. And maybe it's a good thing there's not a Backyard Brawl for another 3 years, because you know what? You should have to sit with this. When you play like Pitt did, when you lose the way Pitt did, and for the reasons Pitt lost, and in the manner in which they blew that game every which way they could, you deserve to sit with it for 3 years before you get a chance at redemption. West Virginia rushed for 174 yards, averaging, as a team, 3 yards per carry. But Ty Edwards, the running back, 25 carries for 141 and 3 touchdowns. When's the last time a running back went off like that against Pitt? And you know, it's not just about Edwards or Ash or the different running backs that they put out there. It's really it was those two guys. It was the way Pitt just got pushed around. And if they wanted to run it up the middle, they had a little bit of success. When they went outside, when they attacked the perimeter, when they tried to go that way, they had a lot of success. And I think in overtime, my notes are flipped back to the first page of the game because I was tracking a few things. Because, brother, I've got the legal pad out tonight. But in the overtime, West Virginia, first play, a toss to the right for 7 yards. And then they ran it again and ran it again and threw a pass to a tight end and ran it again and ran it again. So much for Pitt's epic run defense, Pitt's impenetrable run defense. Well, the one thing you always know about Pitt, they're always going to stop the run. Well, guess what? They didn't stop the run. And guess what? If West Virginia doesn't change quarterbacks 3 times, if Rich Rodriguez, doing his best to lose the game in this battle of two teams that were trying to lose the game, Rich Rodriguez taking out the quarterback who was actually relatively effective, putting in two random guys for the third and most of the fourth quarter before going back to the guy who was mostly effective, the guy who had him with a 7-3 lead at halftime. He changes quarterbacks and lets Pitt get back into the game. Thank you, Rich Rodriguez, for trying to make this one more competitive than it ever needed to be, because guess what? If Nico Marchiol stays in the game, I kind of don't think it ever gets to overtime. Now, it's not like he was lighting Pitt on fire and going up and down the field. Stop. Hold on a second. What am I doing here? I'm getting way ahead of myself. We're getting into the weeds about Pitt's defense, because this game where Pitt's offense went out and gained 349 yards, but scored just 2 touchdowns, had to settle for a bunch of field goals from Trey Butkowski and a 2-point conversion in order to try and get this game into overtime, where Pitt came back from being down double digits, took a double-digit lead, and then proceeded to blow that double-digit lead. This game, actually, I was going to say, we just got to talk about the offense, but the reality is this game was lost every way possible. I mean, every way possible. They even had a missed field goal. And you could say, well, special teams didn't really lose it. Yeah, but they missed a field goal. Trey Butkowski missed a 43-yard field goal. And then he made 23, 46, and 36, but he missed a 43-yard field goal. Guess what? He makes that. It doesn't go to overtime. Offense lost this game. Defense lost this game. Special teams lost this game. Coaching lost this game. Conditioning lost this game. Everything lost this game. Pitt got beat every way you can get beat in a game. And, I think it's the line in Unforgiven, deserve's got nothing to do with it. Deserve doesn't have anything to do with it. Pitt lost a game, and they absolutely very much deserve to lose that game. And I'm not saying that West Virginia deserved to win that game. They obviously did enough to have more points by the end, but Pitt deserved to lose that game. 14 penalties for 118 yards. Pitt had more yards lost to penalties, like by double their rushing yards. They rushed as a team for 46 yards, and they had 118 penalty yards. I'll take a little bit of time before we get in the weeds, but I have like a rundown here of how some of these penalties, not only did they take bad penalties and stupid penalties, but they took them at absolutely crucial times and cost themselves significantly. I have on this paper right here, I have some of the worst penalties Pitt took and how it hurt them in crucially bad situations or crucial situations. And then also a rundown of how Pitt did in the red zone, where they were really, really bad because their offense tonight was really, really bad. Even if they finished with 349 yards, even if Eli Holstein went 22 of 37 for 303 and a touchdown, they were bad. They couldn't run and didn't run. They couldn't protect. And you know what? You know what it came down to, or you know what it ultimately was? It was all the things we were concerned about from the first 2 games. And I was concerned about it. I think you were concerned about it too. How many times do we talk about how they couldn't consistently pick up 4 yards with the run? About how they had less than a 50% success rate on runs of 4 yards or more, right? We talked about that over and over again. And I think you got sick of hearing it probably. Well, guess what? They didn't run the ball very well tonight. Team-wise, 34 carries for 46 yards. Now that includes 27 lost for Eli Holstein. The running backs, Juelz Goff, Desmond Reed, Jakarian Turner combined for 18 carries and 76 yards. So, I don't think that's very good. 18 into 76. I don't know. Can you do the math for me? That's about 4 yards. 18 to 76. Yeah. Little over 4 yards. So on average, they were not terrible. Pass protection was. West Virginia had 6 sacks in this game and countless more pressures that Eli Holstein possibly evaded. I think there was a lot of talk about, only gave up 2 sacks in the first 2 games or something like that. Or Pat Narduzzi mentioned that the limited number of sacks they'd given up in the first 2 games. And my response to that is, I think Eli Holstein had a lot to do with the limited number of sacks they gave up against Duquesne in Central Michigan, because he was under pressure. He was under pressure on like 26% of his dropbacks against Duquesne and Central Michigan. So what the hell do you think is going to happen when you play a Power 5 opponent or Power 4 opponent? If you can't protect against Duquesne and you can't protect against Central Michigan, what do you think is going to happen when you play a real team? What do you think is going to happen when you go against a Big 12 team or an ACC team or, God forbid, Notre Dame? What do you think is going to happen? Well, we saw it. He got sacked 6 times and pressured a bunch more and pressured into bad decisions and rushed his throws and missed open receivers. And some of that was just him being bad and missing open receivers, and some of it was from the pressure. But Pitt couldn't handle it at all. They couldn't pass protect. And now against a real defense with power conference level players, you saw what happened. Lost 27 yards on sacks, 47 yards on sacks, excuse me. Eli Holstein gained 20 rushing yards. He lost 47 on sacks. So, he ended up with a net total of minus 27 rushing yards. But I mean, it was just bad overall. They played like a bad team because I don't think West Virginia is very good. I actually don't. I think they're pretty bad. And Pitt looked like the worst team today. Now, I don't know if I believe that Pitt is the worst team overall. They just lost, so I guess they are the worst team. They should have won this game, and they had lots of opportunities to. And this is probably, as we get into the details about the game, the red zone and the penalties, where, this was a game that even though Pitt played really poorly outside of the penalties and the red zone issues, and particularly the penalties, they still had a pretty good chance of winning this game and should have won this game. You have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. You should not lose that game. But they did, largely because they kept shooting themselves in the foot with the penalties and the mistakes. All right, I feel like we should do the shot of the game. I don't know, who do you even give the shot of the game to? Who played well in this game? Who would you look at and be like, wow, that guy really... Rasheem Biles and Cruz Brookins had 14 tackles each. Braylon Lovelace, Francis Brew had 9 tackles each. Kyle Lewis had 8. None of those guys really made plays. Brew had to play behind the line of scrimmage. Brookins, broke up a pass or two. Offensively, none of the running backs did anything of note. Raphael Williams had the big game, 6 for 119 and a touchdown. He had obviously a huge catch. That big 67-yard catch that set up the touchdown. Bryce Yates had the big 68-yard catch to put a little bit of life into it. I might go with Cruz Brookins. I think I will. Cruz Brookins tied for the team lead with 14 tackles. He had 7 solo tackles, which was the most of any player in the game, actually. And so I guess I'll go with Cruz Brookins because I thought he played pretty well. I done spilled my whiskey. I'm going to have to get a towel for that. But I guess I would go with Cruz Brookins for the shot of the game. I don't really know. How do you pick somebody out of this mess? Trying to see if I have a towel or something. I really did spill some whiskey. So just kind of want to clean that up before I put my notepad in it or something. And then the next game I go to, whatever that game is, the Louisville game, I end up walking in with a notebook that smells like bourbon. Look, I guess Cruz Brookins would be my guy. I don't know if you guys have any suggestions or recommendations for who should be the shot of the game or what it should go to. Because I'm sort of empty on options here. I'm going to scroll into the chat real quick and see if anybody has a shot of the game recommendation. There's a lot of you. Jonah Katz says Caleb Junko. Jonah Katz says Caleb Junko. What were Caleb Junko's stats? Punting wise, he had 7 punts for 301, averaged 43 yards per punt. He did a pretty good job. Had 3 down inside the 20. He had 2 punts of 50 yards or more. Yeah, I don't think Caleb Junko was bad in this game. Actually, Caleb Junko has been good for 3 games. So we'll do double. This might be a double shot of the game, actually. The kind of game that has a double shot of the game. But the Backshore Apparel shot of the game, we'll have a shared, Cruz Brookins for being one of the few guys on defense who I think had a consistently good game start to finish. Caleb Junko, who at least tried to help with field position until Pitt's defense gave up a bunch of long drives. I don't know about you guys, but I always feel better after the shot, don't you? And yes, I'm chasing it with a White Claw. Don't judge me. Listen, that is the Backshore Apparel shot of the game. The first one, at least. Who knows? There might be 2. Backshore Apparel, born in Pittsburgh, built on the Tampa coast, designed for days by the water and salt in the air, but it didn't stop there. Today, Backshore hats are built for every season and every forecast. Whether you're chasing waves, hitting the trail, putting for birdie, or bogey, or braving the Pittsburgh cold. Wherever life takes you, Backshore has you covered. Explore the collection at BackshoreApparel.com. Backshore Coastal Roots, all weather ready. Go to BackshoreApparel.com and check them out. Mike, the guy who runs Backshore, is a big Pitt fan. He won't let you down the way Pitt let you down today. Go check him out. BackshoreApparel.com. All right. Where to start? Let me give you a quick rundown of some things that stand out to me. Okay. And then we're going to get into the comments and questions. There's a lot of super chatters. There's a lot of comments. There's a lot of people in the chat, and I appreciate that. Listen, if you want to make sure we read your comment or answer your question, be a super chatter. There's a little $sign down at the bottom of the chat. You can kick a couple bucks to the podcast. We appreciate the support as always. I like sitting here, drinking and talking about Pitt sports with you guys. But we always appreciate the extra support, whatever you can offer. So if you want to make sure we read because there's a lot of comments and questions here. We'll get through as many as we can, but if you want to make sure we read your comment and answer your question, be a super chatter, post it down at the bottom. And if you got a White Claw, it's the law, brother. All right. Penalties. Okay. Pitt had 14. So there's no shortage of options to choose from here for where Pitt blew it against West Virginia with penalties. But I had a few that stood out. There are a few that stood out. Pitt's second drive of the game, 3rd and 3 at the West Virginia 42. Desmond Reed runs for 8 yards. Blue Hicks gets a block in the back, sets them back, and they end up punting. Now, they were at the 42. That 8-yard run would have put them at the 34. They're getting close to field goal range. They're, likely in scoring position. Now, everything we're talking about is a penalty that pretty directly or close to it took away points or a scoring opportunity, which is notable and relevant in the game that went to overtime, right? So there's one where they were right on the fringe of scoring territory, and they blew it with a penalty. The next drive, Pitt's got 4th and 8 at the 29, West Virginia 29. So twice they drove rather deep into West Virginia territory, on the second and third drives of the game. 4th and 5 from 29. They go for it. Holstein hits Malachi Thomas. He gets 22 yards out of the play. Huge play. Down to the West Virginia 7. Right? Like, okay, you're in business now. A little bit of a rough start. Missed an open receiver on the first drive. Had a bad penalty on the second drive, but now you're rolling, man. You are down inside the 10. You got a fresh set of downs. Everything's clicking. And here comes old Lyndon Cooper jumping on the pile. And now instead of being at the 7, you're at the 22. And you're at a first down still, but you're at the 22 instead of the 7. You're still in scoring range. You're still in scoring territory. But when you get inside the 10, you are not thinking you're going to have to end up settling for a field goal. And in this case, it was a field goal attempt because Trey Bukowski missed the kick. So you go from converting a 4th and 5 with a 22-yard pass that puts you inside the 10 to missing a field goal. And that's points. That's points that were on the board. And you lost it because of a stupid penalty. Stupid. And that's a captain. And I mean no personal insult to Lyndon Cooper here, but you're a captain, senior offensive lineman, one of the better linemen on the team, one of the leaders on offense. Why are you jumping on the pile at the end of a huge pickup? You're not defending your guy. You're making a stupid, selfish decision. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be overly harsh about this, but that costs you points in a game that went to overtime. 3 drives later, 6th drive of the game. Pitt's got 1st and 10 at the 42. Pitt 42. All right, so close to midfield. Okay, good opportunity. It's the first play of a drive, and they take a false start. And I think that was the one like after a commercial break, and they had a bunch of guys in motion, and nobody was set. And it was like, how do you come out that sloppy? How do you come out of a commercial break, timeout, not knowing what you're going to do? Like, how is there a communication error there? No, it's not the crowd. It's not anything like that. It's a lack of focus, a lack of discipline. And they end up punting on that drive partially because they're set back to 1st and 15. Excuse me. Get into the second half, 3rd drive of the second half. They've got 3rd and 3 at the West Virginia 7. And they throw Deuce Spann out there in the Wildcat. Questionable time to try a trick offense? Maybe, but it works. Deuce runs for 6 yards. Except Justin Holmes gets called for holding. Pushes him back. They have to settle for a field goal. They had the ball at the 1. and instead they have to kick a field goal. Next drive, 3rd and 1 at the West Virginia 15. All these things are happening in like great field position. The West Virginia 34 pushed back because of a hold. The West Virginia 7 pushed back because of a stupid personal foul. The Pitt 42 pushed back. The West Virginia 7 or the West Virginia 1 pushed back because of a holding call. The West Virginia 15, 3rd and 1, West Virginia 15. You know what happens here, right? Keith Gouveia, false start. Okay, Keith, you're a veteran guy. You'll be focused on the next one. 3rd and 6 from the 20. False start. Really? They end up kicking a field goal. Like what? Stay focused, man. Like what else do you have to do right now? What else should be on your mind right now? And you know what? Maybe it's not Keith Gouveia's fault. Maybe Eli Holstein changed the cadence. Maybe somebody said something wrong, or there was a weird sound or something like that, or somebody else moved. Maybe it wasn't even Keith. But like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You pushed yourself back, and now you had to kick a field goal. And when you were at the 15, 3rd and 1 at the 15, very much in range for a touchdown. A touchdown that would have, say it with me again, avoided overtime. West Virginia's 5th drive of the second half, they have a 3rd and 6 at their own 29. Rasheem Biles jumps off sides, so it becomes a 3rd and 1. They convert that. They have a 1st and 10, like 2 plays later. Rashawn Murray gets a pass interference call. Now, West Virginia ended up turning the ball over on downs, so it wasn't a huge loss, but you're in a crucial situation there. You are clinging to a lead. It's 3rd and 6, and you jump off sides. And then on the West Virginia's final drive, Rashawn Murray gets another pass interference call that gives West Virginia the ball at the 2. The play was from the Pitt 15. Rashawn Murray gets a pass interference call. The ball goes to the 2. West Virginia scores like a play or 2 later. Like that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I listed Gouveia twice on the same line. 7, 8, 9 really crucial penalties, all of which could have turned the game. Well, and not the Biles offsides and the Murray pass interference. That drive ended up in a turnover on downs, so maybe that doesn't change the outcome of the game. But the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 penalties that I'm talking about. Block on the back on Blue Hicks. Lyndon Cooper piling on, the false start on like the whole offense, Justin Holmes holding, Keith Gouveia double false starts, Rashawn Murray the pass interference from the 15 but to put the ball at the 2. These are all crucial plays in the outcome of a game that went to overtime, and it's not even like you made a play or had a play made against you. You just did something dumb. You lost your focus and made a mistake and got called for a penalty. You lost the game on penalties. Now, Pitt lost the game in a lot of ways. Pitt lost the game in all 3 phases. Pitt made mistakes all over the place. But, like, here are some specific individuals that in those moments made bad decisions that cost Pitt the game. Pitt got into the red zone. I'm actually counting it 7 times. Officially, they got into the red zone 5 times and scored, or 6 times, and scored 5 times on those 6 red zone opportunities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. 5 times on 6 red zone trips. 3 of those 5 were field goals. 2 were touchdowns. So they got 2 touchdowns on 6 red zone trips. But the reality is I'm counting the Malachi Thomas play as a play that drove into the red zone because he caught a pass at the 29, went 22 yards to the 7. And then you had the penalty that moved them back to the, moved him back to the 22 or wherever it was, and led to no field goal. I'm counting that as a red zone. They were in the red zone until Lyndon Cooper made a mistake and kicked them out of the red zone with a 15-yard penalty. So I'm saying 7 trips into the red zone. They got 2 touchdowns today. They had a missed field goal on that Malachi Thomas drive that I was talking about. They had an interception, 3 field goals that they made, and 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns on 7 trips to the red zone. 14 penalties, at least 7 of which were crucial situations. Crucially bad mistakes in crucial situations. Like, how did Pitt lose today? There's a pretty good place to start. Not to mention how bad the offense was, not to mention how the defense got pushed around at the end, not to mention Eli Holstein's mistakes, not to mention the inability to run the ball, not to mention some of the really questionable decisions, not to mention bringing in the backup quarterback and having him throw a screen that he throws 10 feet over the guy's head as opposed to just handing the ball off when you're down inside the 10 or wherever they were. They lost this game in every way you can lose a game. Every way you can lose a game that you probably should win. That, when you have every opportunity to win, they found every possible way to lose it. And this is why we're drinking. Let's go to the super chatters. You guys have been jumping in there. I really appreciate it. Ski8210 says, fire Narduzzi and hire John Gruden. Yeah, that's a great idea. He's never had any history of flaming out. The O-line is pathetic. Pitting 101, just pathetic. The O-line couldn't push the buggy at Giant Eagle, just pathetic. Ski, I feel like you feel like it's pathetic. RJC Man 38 is a super chatter. Oh, Ski, we do appreciate you, though. Thank you for being a super chatter. I appreciate your support. RJC Man 38 says, Narduzzi's a joke. I've had enough. Loaded Bell, nothing's loser pick at OC. Cade Bell didn't have a great game. I think there were probably things there that he wanted to do that maybe were good decisions and good ideas. And they weren't executed, but I think there were a number of times where I just don't know what the line of thinking was. And it seems like seemed like a number of questionable decisions as that game progressed, and you got a sense of what it was and how it looked and what West Virginia was doing. Like, listen, if a team is going to pressure you, if they're going to blitz you, if they're going to send 5 and 6, if a team is going to get pressure with 4, you need to watch out for those times when they send 5 or 6. And you might have to keep a tight end in to block every now and then. I know they don't like to do it. I feel like Gavin Bartholomew stayed in to block like 6 times all year last year or something ridiculous like that on passing plays. But you're going to have to do it. You're going to have help there because your offensive line can't do it. Your running backs aren't really doing a very good job of it either. You saw it today. Those guys were giving up pressures too, particularly after Desmond Reed went out of the game. We didn't even talk about Reed, some sort of mysterious lower body injury that, it's not like TV could show us enough of a replay to actually see if or when he got hurt. So we just get a mysterious report from the sideline from a guy who is, telling us that Desmond Reed has a lower body injury and then gets distracted by the fact that West Virginia is sending in some other guy at quarterback because they couldn't have told us that any other time. Finish your report on Desmond Reed being hurt since he is, an All-American and presumably the most talented offensive player in the game. Although, Ty Edwards or whatever his name is certainly looked pretty good. But maybe give us a little bit more detail, although I'm sure there wasn't much to give. JPlan72 gives a super sticker. That's cool. I don't know what that means, but I appreciate your support, sir. Another Wombat says it's time to face facts about Eli Holstein. Well, I think we're way ahead of you there. Another Wombat. Because I think we've been talking for a while about what Eli Holstein is, who Eli Holstein is, what his strengths are, and what they're not. That, and I think we talked, I feel like we even talked in the offseason, talked in the summer about this, when we were getting reports that he wasn't having a great camp or he was throwing interceptions or making mistakes. This might be who he is, this gunslinger type of thing where he can make some pretty amazing plays, when he's running, when he scrambles, when he steps up, runs up to the line of scrimmage and then throws that pass. I mean, he made those plays today. He made some really good plays today, and he was also god-awful at points today, which, to be honest, was the case against Duquesne, and it was the case against Central Michigan, and it was the case against Cincinnati last year, and it was the case early in the game against West Virginia. Not so much North Carolina, certainly the case against SMU, just without any of the good plays. Cal, and same thing with Cal, not really any of the good plays. Not too many that come to mind, at least. Syracuse, not really anything to remark on. But this kind of might be who he is through, what did he start? 10 games last year. So through 13 starts, in about 11 or 12 full games. I don't know if we're facing facts. I think we know who he is, at least at this point in his development. It doesn't mean he can't get better. He started effectively a full season, right, with 13 starts now. And he is, 7 and He was 7-3 last year, so he's 9-4 now in 13 starts. I think we know who he is. Again, at this point in his development, he's a quarterback who can make some pretty spectacular plays, but also is maybe going to drive you nuts on a play-to-play basis. And he's going to miss guys. He's going to overthrow guys. He's going to get jittery from the pressure, which, you know what? Like, that was even a Kenny Pickett thing. You go back and watch Kenny Pickett, 2019, 2020, particularly 19 and 20 as well to a certain extent. That, I mean, he was running before the pressure even got there. Like, he was feeling pressure before it was there. And one of the biggest things he needed to improve from 2020 to 2021 was just sitting in the pocket and trusting the protection and feeling comfortable in the pocket and not feeling like he needed to break down and run immediately, which I think was something we saw in the NFL as well from Kenny Pickett. That's, Eli Holstein's not exactly the same thing, but that pocket presence isn't great. Now, if you're getting rushed all the time, if you're under pressure all the time, the pocket presence isn't going to be great. The pocket presence is going to be, probably a little rattled because you're under pressure all the time. But then you have this other side where he's able to make sensational plays, able to make great plays that there aren't a lot of quarterbacks who can make. And so, this is who he is, or what you have to take it. What you have to take one with the other, and that's tough. And you'd like to say, oh, he's got to develop, he's got to get better, but that kind of thing takes time. It's not a quick process, and then you do wonder when you're like kind of banging up against the ceiling of, well, this is just who he is, and he can't really improve that much from here. And then you get into a question of like, well, how many games can you, like, maybe just getting those spectacular plays can win you, can be enough to get you a bunch of wins. I mean, they got you 7 wins last year, like in the first 7 games. I don't know. I think there are a lot of conversations we can have and will have about Eli Holstein over the next week. Bring Back Big East Football says, let's say we can Narduzzi. Who would be the options there? I can't think of anyone who would be a good fit or would want the job. I mean, there will always be someone who would want the job. A good fit, I don't know. Probably an offensive head coach. What did isn't that what Alan Green did at Auburn? Didn't he hire Brian Harsin? Maybe he goes and gets Brian Harsin. Look, I mean, I think Brian Harsin was thought to be a good hire at the time, but I don't know. You go find the hotshot offensive coordinator, or you go find the MAC head coach with an offensive background. But I think we're a long ways away from firing Pat Narduzzi. This was a bad game. This was an ugly loss. It was a bad loss. I don't think West Virginia is very good. I don't think they're going to be very good. And I don't think they're going to be anywhere, I think they're going to be pretty close to the bottom of the Big 12. But there's still 9 games left to play. And I don't think you're firing Pat Narduzzi at this point. Although in the aftermath of a loss, a bad one, an ugly one like that, I understand that sentiment is going to be probably prevalent. Jonathan Liberatore says the reserve corners looked pretty good at least. Yeah, not bad. Fine. Not tested a ton. West Virginia they threw 32 passes, completed 22. Marchiol was 19 of 25. That Fox Jr. guy, Scott Fox Jr., or whatever his name is, 1 of 4 with 2 interceptions. So he threw a 56-yard pass. 2 of his passes were intercepted. At least only 1 of his pass attempts hit the ground. So good for him there. And then that other guy, Henderson, 2 of 3 for 12 yards. Like, Rich Rodriguez almost blew this game for West Virginia with his nonsense with the quarterbacks. Honestly, really. Like if Rich Rodriguez doesn't do that, it almost feels like, and it's not exactly the same thing, but that Tennessee game in 2021, that if Tennessee had gone with, Hendon Hooker instead of Joe Milton, I think that's who it was, Joe Milton, then maybe Tennessee probably wins that game. I mean, I think if Rich Rod sticks with Nico Marchiol, He probably doesn't throw the 2 interceptions that lead to 6 points for Pitt. They should have led to more, should have led to touchdowns, but he probably doesn't throw those interceptions that Fox threw. And then you bring in this other guy, like in the end, in the fourth quarter. I don't know, Rich. Not sure I agree with the thinking there. Will Z says Narduzzi, or nothing else needs said other than fire Narduzzi. Well, that's that then, I guess. Mark Thurkel says tons of mistakes as always and everywhere. Cade Bell is easily schemed and isn't ready for this level. Program is putrid. West Virginia is so bad, but we are worse. Pat Narduzzi has to go. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a moron. Mark kind of covered it all there, and he's a super chatter, so I appreciate him for it. I don't know what to say, Mark. Tons of mistakes. I'll go. You put slash marks between your various thoughts here, so I kind of like that. So I'll go thought by thought. Tons of mistakes as always and everywhere. Yep, a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad, undisciplined, unforced errors. Bell is easily schemed and isn't ready for this level. Was the scheme the problem today? I don't think the scheme was the problem. Like we can either talk about Cade Bell's scheme is bad or Eli Holstein missed all the open receivers. But if we want to talk about Eli Holstein missing open receivers, isn't that sort of like a backhanded compliment to the scheme? Right? The scheme got those guys open. Like Desmond Reed on that first drive is wide open. Justin Holmes, 1 or 2 drives later, is open. I mean, like, those are good plays. And called at the right time. Like, I don't know. That's like, I think those reflect well on Cade Bell's game planning and play calling. I guess it could be a little bit of both, and at times it was some of this, a little bit of bad scheme and a little bit of Holstein missing guys, but I don't know. The scheme's not perfect. The play calling's not perfect, but it was probably good enough to win today. Mark's other points. Program is putrid. West Virginia is so bad, but we are worse. I don't think West Virginia is very good. I think Pitt should have won that game, and I think Pitt just found a lot of ways to lose. And credit to West Virginia because, you know what, as much as I talk about how Pitt found ways to lose, West Virginia pushed them around on their final 2 drives, up and down the field, almost 160 yards on the final 2 drives in regulation. West Virginia pushed Pitt around, and I think you could see the effort. I think you could see the energy go. I think those guys played a billion snaps. I think Rasheem Biles played every snap on defense. I think Kyle Lewis only came out for a little bit because he had a hamstring. I think Braylon Lovelace was out there basically the entire game. McIntyre and Brookins the whole game. Shadarian Harris, some of these guys played a ton, and I think they were showing it. I think they were worse for the wear by the end. How many plays did West Virginia run? 90 plays. West Virginia ran 90 plays, and you're going out there and having some of your guys play every single snap on defense. You're going to wear down, and I think they did wear down, and by the end, West Virginia was pushing them around as a result. What else? Deuce has to go. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a moron. Actually, Mark, because he's calling someone a moron, says Deuce has to go. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a moron. I feel like it's important to emphasize that, but look, Mark, emotions are high for sure. Thomas Foster is a super chatter. And Thomas, I appreciate it, but I don't know what your comment was. So I'm going to try and find it real quick and see if I can bring it up. Remember, you got it. If you're going to be a super chatter, put your comment in with your super chat because I can't find it now, Thomas. So if you want to throw it in at the end of the chat here, I can try. If you want to post it again, I can try to look for it and read it. We got so many chats in here. Man, you guys are really fired away at the end here. Yeah, if you want to put it in there, Thomas, I'd love to read your comment because you were super chatter, but I can't find it right now. Make sure you add your comment to the super chat so we know what to say and know what to read. Let's see. Kyle Peterson says way too sloppy, tons of penalties and missed chances. 3-9 in 2023, 6 losses to end 2024. Blew this game. Maybe time to move on from Pat. It's frustrating. Look, I mean, I can't. I'm not going to sit here and say, they should fire this guy or fire that guy. But like, yeah, this was a bad loss. And yeah, they had some bad losses last year. And yeah, they went 3-9 2 years ago. It's tough to say that over the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 2 seasons plus these 3 games, that they're trending in the right direction. I think there was a point where it looked like they might be last year when they were 7-0 and they seemed to have some things coming together, but losing some of the games they lost last year, it was inevitable they were going to lose games down the stretch, whether everybody stays healthy or not. Throw in the injury issues, and you were going to have a rough go of it, but you didn't need to lose all 6 games. You didn't need to lose to Toledo. It didn't have to go that way. It didn't have to be that bad. It could be bad, but it didn't have to be that bad. And 2023 is another example where you didn't have to have a great, you could have a bad season. It happens. You might have a bad season here and there, but it didn't have to be as bad as it was. They didn't need to lose in Morgantown that year. They didn't need to lose at Wake Forest that year. They didn't need to lose the Syracuse game. Those were games that were winnable games against not very good teams that they should have won, and they blew it. So, you've got some bad losses along the way, and situations where it's not just that you had injuries or you got outplayed, but you did it to yourself. You played yourself, right? You played yourself. Let's see. It's kind of funny. I'm going to go back to the super chats, but I just noticed Byron Nelson says you shouldn't lose being up 10 with 6 minutes left. I mean, last year Pitt beat West Virginia after they were down 10 with 4 minutes left. So it does happen, I guess. We all celebrated that one last year, and West Virginia is going to celebrate this one this year. Stephen Richmond says nobody seemed mentally prepared. Do we have a sports psychologist on staff? Look, the offense was really bad. The offense was really bad in the first half. There's no question about it. But the defense only gave up 7 points. So I don't think it's that nobody was mentally prepared. I mean, I think they knew what to do. I think they knew what they needed to do. I would hope that they didn't think too highly of themselves for beating Duquesne and Central Michigan, because nobody should think too highly of themselves or think anything at all of themselves for beating Duquesne and Central Michigan. I would hope that they, knew that they would need a considerably better performance against a considerably stronger opponent after beating West Virginia and Central Michigan, or beating Duquesne and Central Michigan. I don't know about sports. I think they do have a sports psychologist or those kind of services available to the players, but I don't know about mental preparation. If they overlooked West Virginia, I mean, shame on them. I don't know if I think they did overlook West Virginia. I think for the bulk of the game, they made a lot of stupid mistakes and dumb mistakes and took dumb penalties. And then at the end of the game, they got pushed around, and that's ultimately why they lost. I don't know if they were unprepared or not ready to go or overlooked West Virginia. I'm not sure if I would think about that. Craig says punting ended Pat Narduzzi's career if Pitt is a halfway serious program. Eli is constantly floating the ball to nobody, 20-30 until Narduzzi is gone. So I'm guessing you're talking about the last punt in regulation. Let's just bring that drive up real quick. So Pitt got the ball with 5 minutes to go and threw the ball on first down against a 3-man rush. I really think when you came out on that drive, you get the ball back with 5 minutes. West Virginia's got 1 timeout, maybe 2 timeouts, whatever it is. And you come out on that drive, and I think you needed to come out with a pass play called and a run play to check into if you got a look that they weren't going to pressure you. And they didn't. They had a 3-man rush on. They dropped 8 guys into coverage on that first play. And Eli Holstein tries to force a pass to Zion Fowler-El. It's incomplete. You now stop the clock after just 4 seconds. That's a fail. You're trying to protect a 1-touchdown lead, and you run 4 seconds off the clock. You failed. Second play, snapped at the 4:58 mark. Juelz Goff runs for 17 yards, and they get another 15 tacked on top for an unnecessary roughness penalty. So it's 1st and 10 in West Virginia territory at the 43. The clock is under 4:30. They hand it off again. Here again, I think you needed a pass play called with a run check underneath. Like, you are in your 4-minute offense. You are trying to run clock, but also I don't know if you can rely on your run game in that situation, because you need to what is better for you, generally speaking? It's the pass game. So they run it. Goff gets 1 yard. They snap it around the 350 mark on 2nd and 9. Ja'Karian Turner gets 2 yards. It's now down almost to the 3-minute mark. You're at the West Virginia 40 on 3rd and 7, and they get 3 yards on a screen pass. West Virginia calls timeout with 2:58. So you're at 4th and 4 from the West Virginia 37 with 2:58 left to go. And I think all of your timeouts. I don't think Pitt had used a timeout to that point. Let me just look through it. No, Pitt had not used a timeout to that point. So 4th and 4 from the 37 with 3 minutes to go. And I only mentioned the timeouts because if you decide to go for it, you fail, West Virginia scores, you have more time. 4th and 4 from the 37 with 3 minutes to go. You end up punting it, and the ball gets downed at the West Virginia 13. Not bad. It took like a bad bounce. Caleb Junko's punt was pretty good, but it took a bad bounce back toward the 50, so it ends up getting down to the 13. 4th and 4 at the 37. Yeah. Yeah, here's what I would say. I'm going back and forth about it. Maybe for some people, this is just an obvious, yeah, of course you would go for it. I go back and forth about it. On one hand, 3 minutes to go at the 37-yard line, punt it, play defense, win the game. Like, you should be able to stop them. On the other hand, West Virginia had just marched 72 yards on you to get a field goal to cut the lead to a touchdown. And they were running the ball well on you. They were picking up pass plays. They were doing a lot. And so you might not have felt as confident in your defense as you would have in other situations. Screw it. Yeah, you should have gone for it. Actually, like, the more I think about it, yeah, you should have gone for it. It was a 4th down from the West Virginia 37. Rich Rod had already gone for it on 4th and 1 right from his own 34, and they got it. 4th and 4 from the 37. You got to have a play that's in there that you can bring out in that situation. You should have gone for it. I think I'm on board with that. I don't think that's why they lost the game. I think it's still reasonable to expect that if you punt them back to the 13, you get a stop, giving up an 87-yard touchdown drive. But yeah, probably should have gone for it. Let's see. Christian R says, Chris, it could be worse. Virginia Tech is down 28 to Old Dominion. Ouch. Let me see if that's still the case. Actually, I haven't even looked at the ACC scoreboard since we sat down and started doing this. I know SMU was losing. Yeah, it's still 28-0. Old Dominion's winning at halftime. Miami's beating South Florida 35-6. Duke is down 2 touchdowns to Tulane. That's interesting. Georgia Tech, as you all saw, beat Clemson. Virginia crushed William and Mary. SMU came back. They were down 10-0 to Missouri State. They came back and won that game 28-10. Carolina beat Richmond by 35 points. And, the Thursday night game, Friday night game. You've probably already seen that. So, yeah, it could be worse. You could be losing to Old Dominion. Alex Fernandez, super chatter, we appreciate you, says, we looked sloppy all game and didn't take advantage of any opportunities. Too many penalties at terrible moments. Offensive scheme is questionable. To me, I mean, the penalties are some of the biggest issues. You gave this game away in large part with 14 penalties for 118 yards and some really bad ones in there in crucial situations. Benjamin Glazer, another super chatter, we appreciate it, says Eli Holstein doesn't seem brain strong. It's telling how poor Pitt is on offense without Desmond Reed. Cade Bell doesn't plan with other running backs, and a big drop off after Francis Brew. So I think Francis Brew is playing really well. I think Sean Fitzsimmons had a sack where he pushed the offensive lineman into the quarterback, which that's pretty good too. I felt like West Virginia was taking advantage more of Pitt on the perimeter, particularly the outside linebackers. And I really, up until Kyle Lewis got that interception, I didn't feel like the linebackers were playing the best game. I thought they were making mistakes. I didn't think they were covering well. I didn't think they were finishing plays. Too many missed tackles and things like that. Defensive line, okay. I think I'll probably go back and watch the game again tomorrow. Just to, we got to watch the tape. Probably go back and watch the game again tomorrow just to see, get another look at it, get a fresh set of eyes, kind of knowing what to expect in each situation, kind of see how it came to be. But yeah, I think Francis Brew has been their best defensive tackle so far. I don't think the other guys are as good as him, but I think they're still pretty solid. And, kind of the same thing with the defensive ends. But it just, we haven't seen Pitt really get pushed around by a running game like that. The Syracuse game in 23, the Dan Villari game where that tight end ran for all those yards, maybe. I don't know. It's been a while since we've seen that kind of performance against Pitt's run defense. Just looking through here to see if Thomas, our super chatter, had anything else to chime in. If you wanted to bring in his super chat, I don't see anything. All right, let's scroll up through more of these comments and questions. Try and get a few more. I know we're coming up on an hour, but I don't know. There's a lot of you still online. I feel like you guys want to hang out and talk. And I did something smart tonight, all right? So I just finished the first White Claw, right? Oh, man. Have to end the live stream because, we ran out of the White Claw. What are we going to do? Look what somebody brought. Second claw. You got to plan ahead for these things. I had a feeling this was going to be a longer live stream than just our regular hour. So bring 2 claws to the party, folks. Jason V is a chatter, is in the chat, says, watch Eli's body language. He had zero confidence and composure. I would disagree with that. I think he's got a lot of confidence. His composure, I think he gets fiery at times. I think Eli Holstein, is a big, strong, tough quarterback. I would guess, I'm not a doctor, but it looked like he probably had a broken nose, right? Would that be your assumption that he had a broken nose with the way it was taped up and all that stuff? So dude played through most of the game with a broken nose, and was still getting after it, like going hard in that game. I'll never question his toughness. I'll never question his competitiveness. Leadership. I think he's probably a pretty good leader. Maybe a little overconfident at times. I think he probably gets hard on himself for sure. I think he probably gives his, I think he probably tries to lead his teammates and get those guys going. I don't know. I have a hard time with body language, reading body language, watching body language. I don't know. But I think Eli Holstein is a tough physical player, good quarterback, hard worker, probably a pretty good teammate. But he's obviously got some things he needs to figure out in terms of being a consistent down-to-down, series-to-series quarterback, which he hasn't really been, really in his career. But he doesn't seem to have taken as many steps forward as he needs to. Stephen Retchman says, pause full of claws. Let's go. You got it, buddy. Pause full of claws. I almost think there should be a second shot of the game. I don't know if this is the kind of day for it or not, but sort of feeling it. We'll see what happens here as we keep working through all the chats. Will Z's the super chatter, 2-time super chatter tonight. We appreciate you. Also, I know that it's more than this, but FACC refs missed 3 straight false starts, but want to call 100 flags against Pitt. The final call was 14 penalties for 118 yards against your University of Pittsburgh football Panthers, 6 penalties for 60 yards against West Virginia. I think there were some pretty bad calls both ways. Did more bad calls go against Pitt? Maybe. Did bad calls go against West Virginia? Yes. I always settle on in any game, any sport. If we're talking about referees, umpires, officials, whatever it is, I always kind of come down on look, they're going to get a lot of things wrong. But if they get it wrong more or less evenly between the teams, it's okay. Even though Pitt got penalized a lot more than West Virginia, I don't think they got more calls wrong against Pitt or in West Virginia's favor than they did the other way around. I think they screwed up both ways. And it's like, it's a funny thing to say, but like, I sort of feel like as long as they screw up evenly, as long as they screw over each team equally, more or less with bad calls, I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm not okay with it, but you know, that's like the best you can hope for is like, canceling incompetence or something like that. Let's see. Get back up here to the top of the chats. And if you want to make sure you get your comment or question read, be a super chatter, jump in there. I'm scrolling all the way to the top of the chat to go through what everybody was saying here. I'll read a few and then we'll see what we have to say. Stephen Richmond says penalties and an inability to finish in the red zone killed us. Bobby Fitzmaurice says brutal loss. Jason V says that Eli Holstein is Phil Dracovic part 2. I disagree about that. Like, Dracovic never should have played in the second half against West Virginia in 2023 and really beyond that point. He shouldn't have been on the field. He should not have played for Pitt again. And that's that was different. Eli Holstein wasn't good today, but he did have some redeeming plays. Whether it was scrambling and throwing, stepping up and throwing, scrambling and picking up yards himself, he did more today than Phil Dracovic did, like positive things. So I don't think there's a comparison there. Phil Dracovic looked like a guy who either had never played football before or forgot how to play football. Eli Holstein, there's still something there. Like the guy can be good. He's just got a few sort of consistency and things to work out, and he needs, vision things to work out, and just the game kind of slowing down. He needs to be able to see the game a little bit better. Daniel says brutal. Nobody would disagree. JWM Adams says Pitt's the bet again, and we should have seen it coming. I've never gone for the pitting thing. They had a bad loss. It's a bad loss. It doesn't have to be some special mystical thing that's unique to Pitt. Everybody takes bad losses. Virginia Tech is losing to Old Dominion right now. You can look around college football every weekend and find plenty of games that are bad losses by teams, losing to teams that they shouldn't have lost or losing in inexplicably frustrating ways like Pitt did today. It's not unique to Pitt. Everybody blows games. And so, like, the Clemson thing of Clemsoning was something sort of unique because you had to, kind of be on the precipice of being really good. You know what I mean? Or generally be considered to be really good and have a chance to maybe elevate to the higher level, in the highest level of the sport, and then you blow it. Like, that was Clemsoning, and that was a thing. Pitting, you ever watch The Wire? And they're talking about like zombies or something, and they're talking, the kids are talking about like, oh, he's not dead, he's special dead. It's some kind of special dead that comes back to life or so, whatever. I forget exactly what the context was, but the one kid, Dookie, says there's no special dead, it's just dead. Like, there's no special way of Pitt losing. Like, they find ways to inexplicably lose games, but they're not. It's college football. Stupid things happen all the time. It's kind of the beauty of the sport. That's why we love college football. Because crazy, ridiculous, stupid things happen. I mean, one of the greatest sort of crystallizations that have come out of social media is the whole world accepting the fact and understanding and stating and realizing the fact that the reason we love college football is because it's gloriously stupid. That gloriously stupid things happen when you take 18 to 21-year-old men of varying abilities and put them all together and say, do these things in a very specific way, because they inevitably screw it up. And that's what's fun about it. Because when I remember having this conversation with somebody a little while ago about college football versus the NFL. And I was like, look, one of the reasons that college football is so great versus the NFL and why it's more exciting than the NFL, why it's more just fun to watch than the NFL, is because in the NFL, everybody's really, really good. And like, there are some guys who are really, really, really good, but for the most part, they're all like on a high level in terms of ability. And so when you put a bunch of evenly matched people together playing against each other, you end up with some boring stuff because things don't usually happen. And I kind of felt like that was the case the first week or so of college football this year, where you had some of these really high level teams playing each other. It was boring. But what gets fun in college football is when you take sort of evenly matched teams, but like they're evenly matched in the sense that they've got some really high level guys, a lot of mid-level guys, and then some guys who aren't that good. But because of like how the rosters are built and the construction and what you have, all three levels are going to be playing at the same time. And so you're going to have the really good against the not so good, and the just good against the really good, or against the not so good. And when you have that varying talent level, crazy stuff happens. And that's why we love college football. And so you end up with like really stupid outcomes and really stupid games decided on really stupid things. And it's not unique to Pitt. Like, ask any fan base in the country, they can list 10 games that their team has lost in the stupidest of ways. It's not a unique Pitt thing. I'm sorry. I know Pitt fans want to believe that they're somehow unique in the rug getting pulled out from under them or having bad losses, but you're not. There was a super chat that came in here. Pitt fan H2P says, rough night to be a Pitt fan, although it's an overtime rivalry loss on the road, not the end of the world. Pitt will be back and they'll win the ACC. There we go. You know what? Pitt fan H2P. I didn't know if this would be a double shot night, but because you just came through at this point in the live stream, how far are we? We're like 60 minutes, 61 minutes, 62 minutes into the live stream. And Pitt fan H2P, actually, you posted this at 8:58. So Pitt fan H2P, 58 minutes in the live stream comes through with, it's an overtime loss, rivalry loss on the road. It's not the end of the world. And then follows up with Pitt will be back and they'll win the ACC. Pitt fan H2P. We don't usually do double shot games. All right. We don't usually do double shot games, but my man, you did it. Pitt fan H2P, to you, your optimism and your ability to look in the face of a crushingly stupid loss and have optimism. I appreciate it. We'll drink to that, sir. Oh, that's great. All right. What else? Let's get back to all the people saying fire all the coaches. Let's see. Oh, there's another super chat that came in before we get back to the other comments. Max Harris says, do you need to update your win-loss prediction? I struggle to see this team getting to 6 wins. So when I was going back and forth about 8-4 versus 9-3, I was kind of settling at 9-3 because I was getting swept up in the optimism and the hype of training camp. But then I was like, it feels like this team has another like stupid loss in them. Like it feels like I could talk myself into 9-3, but it feels like they've got they're going to blow one somewhere along the way. We might have just seen that today. Okay. We might have just seen that stupid loss today because you look ahead, right? And like not even thinking specifically about the teams that they're going to face, but you look ahead, you look at who this team is, what they have, and the players they've got. I mean, Eli Holstein, for whatever we want to say about some of his decision-making, still has the ability to make those spectacular plays. He had a lot to do with the comeback today, right? Raphael Williams is showing an ability to get open. Kenny Johnson, criminally underused. If they ever could actually use him more, get him the ball, and maybe West Virginia was covering him a lot or trying to take him away. But if they could get him the ball a little bit more and involve him more in the offensive game plan, I think he can make a lot of big plays. If Desmond Reed gets healthy and gets back out there, we know he's good. Tight ends are proving themselves to be useful. Nice play from Malachi Thomas. Open play up the sideline for Justin Holmes that could have been a touchdown or at least a nice long gain and a first down. decent weapons there, not great offensive line protection. Gonna have to figure something else out there, whether it's keeping a tight end to block or quicker passes or Eli Holstein rolling out more, whatever it might be. Defensively, I think you've seen Zach Crothers getting after it. You've seen some of the defensive tackles emerge a little bit. I think we all know the linebackers are really good, although I think their reputation took a bit of a hit today, despite some of the numbers that they finished with. I think, they didn't necessarily have a great game. The corners seem to be coming along nicely, although they haven't faced a great passing attack yet. And Cruz Brookins is playing really well at safety. Javon McIntyre, missed opportunity at a safety. We didn't even mention that one. But Cruz Brookins is playing really well, and I think overall the safeties are pretty solid. Special teams are coming together nicely. Good return units. Kenny Johnson had a nice long punt return. Trey Bukowski has missed a field goal and missed an extra point, but he's a freshman. Caleb Junko is playing punting well. There's every reason to think this team can win 5 more games, 6 more games over the rest of the season. So what? They've got 9 more games left. Can they go 6-3 and finish 8-4? Absolutely. I absolutely think they can, because again, they went out there today. Okay. And so they got pushed around on the final 2 drives. But if they weren't doing so many dumb things, those final 2 drives would have been rather inconsequential. If they didn't have, let's say if Lyndon Cooper doesn't dive on the pile, just that could have been the difference in winning the game, right? They win the game. Doesn't go to overtime, even though they got pushed around on the final 2 drives. If Justin Holmes doesn't hold on the deuce span Wildcat snap, they win the game. It doesn't go to overtime, regardless of how they got pushed around in the final 2 drives. So we can talk about this team that they're the worst team in the ACC and they're only going to go, they're going to go 2-10 the rest of the way. But there's a difference when you lose a game because you're out talented, which in some areas Pitt was today. And there's a difference between that and when you lose a game because you do a bunch of dumb stuff and you shoot yourself in the foot. And look, sometimes doing dumb stuff and shooting yourself in the foot is part of the deal, is part of your fabric, your DNA. That's who you are. And maybe that's who this team is. And maybe they'll make these kind of mistakes every year and they'll be the most penalized team in the country. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be a little bit smarter. Maybe they'll be a little bit more disciplined. Maybe they won't make some of these mistakes and they'll end up winning the games they're supposed to win. Because you take away some of those mistakes on a sheer just play-to-play basis, talent-to-talent basis, they should have won the game. So, I don't struggle to see this team getting to 6 wins. I'm going to stick by this team winning at least 8 because I think they're still there. It was a loss today. It was a bad loss today. It was an ugly loss today. It was also an overtime loss in a rivalry game on the road, like Pitt fan H2P pointed out. So I'm not going to give you a pass for being dumb and doing dumb stuff, but it was, it doesn't drastically change my expectations for the rest of the season. Not yet, at least. Let's see. Scrolling through here. Who's still chiming in? I appreciate everybody who's still posting here. I'm trying to go to the end of the comments. Oh, you guys are all arguing against each other. I always like when that happens in the comments, that you guys just end up having your own side conversations in addition to what I'm saying here. David Allen says the team is tough and the schedule is tough and the team is bad. 6 wins max. Schedule's tough, but I don't know. I'm not convinced the team is bad. I think they just did some dumb stuff today. BGA's Blitz says no effing way they win 8 games, 0 chance. I mean, we'll see, I guess, right? They'll see. Or we'll see. Yeah, so this is a problem. All right. Ramon Escalante says you're ignoring how bad the offensive line is. Literally zero movement against inferior opponents. And this is a problem. There's no question about it. And maybe we'll finish up with a conversation about this. The offensive line's not playing well. They have not gotten better. They're not doing better. They're not improved from last season. And this is a big issue. And we pointed this out after the Duquesne game and after the Central Michigan game. And we've talked about it, like, not just on the post-game shows. We've talked about it on the live shows on Wednesday night. We've talked about it on the morning pit throughout the week, Monday through Friday, here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That they weren't controlling the line of scrimmage like they needed to, like they should have been able to do against an FCS team and a group of 5 team. They weren't. They were getting, I don't want to say they were getting pushed around by those teams, but you look at the run game success rate. We talked about it. How many times did I talk about it? Number of times they got 4 or more yards per carry on a carry. It was like 50% of their running back rushing attempts. And then the pass protection, I felt like they had only given up a few sacks through the first 2 games, largely because Eli Holstein was getting out of trouble. He was getting out of, running away from pressure and escaping in those situations. And that had more to do with it than, good pass protection or something like that. And so we've talked about this, like it's been a concern. And it was probably the number one concern coming into this season was how much had the offensive line improved? Did the offensive line improve enough? Did it get better over the offseason with the transfers that they added? And it's hard to say that it did. I do think West Virginia's defense is pretty solid, borderline good. I think they have a lot of pressure packages. I think they blitz a lot and get in the quarterback's face. I think Eli Holstein tends to be better against, extra rushers than he is against dropping guys into coverage. But if you don't have any time, it's kind of hard to deal with. And if you're under pressure all the time, and he was under pressure this season coming into this game, he was under pressure on 26% of his dropbacks. Let me see if Pro Football Focus has numbers up for today's game yet. If they do, I'll tell you what his pressure numbers were. They do not. So we'll have to check that kind of later in the week. I know Steeler fans, you don't like that they said Aaron Rodgers was bad, but we're just talking about pressure stats. That's just something that's pretty objective. So we'll take them for the objective counting statistics as opposed to some of those the grades and things like that. But Eli Holstein, he does well when he's under pressure. He escapes the pocket, he makes throws downfield and that kind of thing. But he's not great when he has to sit back and pick apart the defense. We were talking about the offensive line. I was getting off onto an Eli Holstein conversation, but we've talked about that extensively. Look, the offensive line, they're not protecting well. They're not doing a great job. Whether it's recognition and picking up the blitz, or whether it's handling a 4-man rush, a 3-man rush. There were times when a 4-man rush with a twist. That was one of the last plays. I think that was when he got sacked in overtime. Let me look. Yeah, the 3rd and 11 play when he got sacked and lost 13 yards. They rushed 4 guys and they just ran a little twist. And that was enough to mess Pitt up. And get Eli Holstein dropped for a 13-yard loss. And then he tries a check down pass on 4th down. Justin Holmes, I think Justin Holmes was like, why are you throwing it to me? I'm 8 yards downfield and we need a 4th and 24 or whatever with 4th and 24 and you're throwing an 8-yard pass. Why are you throwing to me? I think that's why Justin Holmes didn't even try to catch the ball and it was thrown so high over his head. But look, the offensive line's a big issue. They got to figure out some solutions and some answers in this off week. I don't know how much you can fix. Aside from changing some of the protection schemes, maybe keeping more guys in to block and, more quick passes. I don't know if there are personnel answers. I don't know if there are I don't know if there are substitutions you can make or guys you can swap in that are going to improve this situation, but they've got extra time to try to figure it out. Let's see if there's anything else here. You guys had a lot of comments. I really appreciate everybody who chimed in. Craig says Eli Holstein is not half as good as 2021 Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was a 2021. He was a Heisman Trophy finalist. So, no, He's not there. Let's see. All right. I think everybody's pretty disappointed and upset about this. Understandably so. It's a bad loss. Pitt falls to West Virginia 31-24 in overtime, and they have 3 years to stew about this until the series returns in 2029. Pitt is 2-1. They'll have an off week, and then they will face Louisville and all of the ACC opponents from here on out, other than the Notre Dame game a little bit later in the season. They have things to work on. There's no question about that. They have They have a lot to work on. Steel Will 51 says, thanks for this. This feels good to vent. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get to your comments, Steel Will. I was reading them, but I just couldn't fit them in there. We had a lot of super chatters as well, but I appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. We're going to have morning pits. Pitt is going to be off for the week, but we're still going to have a morning pit every Oh, here's one. I want to read this one. Cole Lichtenfels says, what are the chances this is just another stupid loss a la Western Michigan in 2021? Pitt might not have as much success as they did in 21, but I do not think this team is bad. 9-3 is still feasible. Cole, if I hadn't already done 2 shots, I would do another one for you, sir, because I appreciate that optimism, just like Pitt fan H2P. It absolutely could be. Look, I think there are a lot of pieces on this team that can be good. I think there are a lot of elements on this team that can be good. But they've got some stuff they've got to figure out. Fortunately for them, I guess, they've got a week to do it. All right, we're not going to have any time off. We'll have lots of content and coverage. Jim is in Morgantown right now. Pray for the young man to get out of there alive. But he's in Morgantown. He'll have lots of coverage from the postgame at Panther-Lair.com. And, of course, we'll have a lot right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like this video and subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content, the postgame stuff coming out of tonight's game, plus all of our morning pits and all those things, plus the live shows on Wednesday, and all the things we like to do at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to all the super chatters and everybody who had comments and questions. We'll take a day to stew over it. We'll have lots of articles to write about it, and then we will get going with the morning pit on Monday. So like this video and subscribe if you don't mind. Have a good rest of your Saturday night. Enjoy the NFL Sunday tomorrow, and we will catch up with you on Monday for the morning pit. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.